But today was bad. Light work, people. Light work. It seems we're soft all over the pitch. Good evening, people. You're very welcome to KALL TV for a bumper edition show. I tell you, don't tell me I don't work hard. Don't tell me I'm bringing fire content. A double show in store. People thought I'm going to do a call-in show. People thought I've forgotten all about the small matter of a Premier League game against Aston Villa and Stevie Gerrard. Nah, I haven't. I haven't forgotten about it at all. So what we're going to do, people that are tuning in and hoping, where's the link? And come on, relax, calm down. What we're going to do, we're going to split the show into two parts. I'm going to do a quick preview with the guys about the Aston Villa game. And then I'll put the link in the description, and then you guys can bombard me with anything that you guys want to talk about. And obviously, joining me today, I've got another amazing panel. First and foremost, we've got the returning Big K in the building. It's been a while, my friend. How are you?
It's been a while, my friend. No, I've been very good, bro. Been very good. You're right. I am only here when we win, because I hosted the show on Wednesday when we got through in the Champions League, and I was nowhere to be seen for the draw/defeat. Which might as well have been a defeat.
Weak mentality.
I was crying into my pillow, my Liverpool pillow, so it was emotional. But yeah.
and of course, Hope now is a familiar face and hopefully a regular face moving forward. Steve, how we do, my friend? You good?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. Thanks for having me on again. This is the third time we've shared a screen, mate. So all good, and yeah, nice to meet the two fellas for the first time this evening as well.
Of course, and I must thank Ty for coming on at last minute. Ty, thank you so much for coming on short notice, man. Really appreciate your time. Of course, Ty Bracey from the Villa View. So go check out that podcast as well, people. He hosts spaces at the Villa Spaces as well. Thank you very much for coming on, my man.
You're welcome, mate. Keith, just on the back of that, mate, try hosting 5 in a row on 5 losses. Talk to me about draw, defeat. Come on, you don't know pain. What?
Hey, that's it. Call me the glory hunter of podcasters right here, bro.
Well, it's nice to be in a Liverpool podcast with somebody who's actually a Scouser, you see. So Steve Clunk's the boy. Steve Clunk is the boy.
Love it. Steve's repping.
Well, we'll start with Steve then. We'll start with Steve in the case the Scouser in the house. Yeah, Steve, basically we have no rest for the wicked or the glory. We have to dust ourselves down from a disappointing result, and most would say disappointing performance as well overall. And we go to Villa Park. How are you feeling going into this game, my friend?
Yeah, first of all, the game at the weekend was a bit disappointing. The performance was a leggy performance for me, as opposed to a disappointing performance. All these games is going to catch up with you at some point, and I think the main thing is with the lads who are playing at the moment, and I've referenced this on your pods before, is when you're in the moment, you've got to keep the players who are in the moment. You've got to keep them in the moment. So massive rotation doesn't help. There's a project on at the moment to get across the line at the end of the season, and it's the same bodies that are doing the work, and that's how it has to be, in my opinion. You have to give a bit of credit to Spurs. They set up really well. They did everything that we knew they would do, which was play on the counter-attack and cause us problems. Going into the game against Villa, look, we've got to go now to the end of the season 100%. It's got to be perfect in the hope that something goes wrong with Manchester City. If they go perfect to the end of the season, they win the league. And the realism is we can do nothing about that. It's hard to top perfection. And that's pretty much what we'd have to do if they win all of their games. So, listen, I said to you before, Grizz, if we finish second on 92 points to a Man City side on, 90, 94, 95, 96, it's far from a disgrace. The levels these two teams are setting are absolutely ridiculous. Our season as a whole should be celebrated rather than put under the microscope for individual performances. Villa's always been a good hunting ground for us. Sorry, Ty, but it has. We've always done well at Villa. Go back as far as the Robbie Fowler days.
Hey. Let's talk about a visit not so long ago at Villa Park.
Yes,
Come on.
Swiftly moving on. We don't talk about Adrian in that game anymore, mate. We let that one go. One result aside, we do well against Villa. They are tight. You got your plaudits there, mate.
Thank you, mate.
I think we'll be sharp. I think we'll be focused. I think if Sunday's game does nothing else, what it does, or Saturday's game, weekend's game does nothing else, it brings it home to us that we need to be better. It was our decision making as well was poor in the final third, and that will have to improve. I see much of the same bodies. If we'd won against Spurs, I think we'd have seen a bit more rotation, but I'm sure we'll get onto that. So, quietly confident we get back in straps against Villa, mate. So, I think that's what's going to happen.
Ty, just before we get your all things perspective on the Villa situation and everything, it's always interesting to hear other clubs, fans, how they perceive Man City and Liverpool in terms of rivalry, in terms of what they think of the footballing styles, the two coaches. Just give us your opinion on the two. Well, let's start with the two coaches. What's your opinion and views of the two coaches, for example?
I'll be honest.
Yeah. Best way.
They're both world-class managers, that I will most definitely say. But one has an endless book and one doesn't. And it's very easy for people to say Pep's the best in the world. I do think he has a style of football that's very unique. You know, he's a product of Cruyff and he plays total football, but he also has an endless checkbook. Now, I haven't been fond of either the last few years. However, when Stevie came in, there was a lot of Liverpool fans who were really nice to me, and loads of people reaching out about it, saying, "Yeah, it'll be sound," And I just realised that the Liverpool fans aren't actually as bad as I was probably perceiving.
However,
like Man City today, for example, when it's like, "Oh yeah, Haaland done deal," it's like, when does it stop? They took our best player for 100 million last season. That was hard enough to deal with. And it's just like they take who they want when they want. I feel like it's like a cheat code. Do you know what I mean? And I just admire so much more what Klopp has done over the years with you guys. My only worry with you guys is when you have a manager for that long and their DNA is inside out in that football club, you usually see a bit of a dip after that. I mean, I know he's just signed a contract extension, but someone like Klopp, his DNA is going to be head to toe in that club by the time he calls it a day, whenever that happens. He might even retire at Liverpool. You never know. But that's when you see a bit of a dip. You only have to look at Man United with Sir Alex as an example and the struggles that they're having. So I completely rate the hustle of both managers. However, one has an endless checkbook and one doesn't, personally. So Klopp pips it for me. I mean, the problem is with Man City, I think it's hard to see really attractive football and footballers do well. Like, you're not seeing Jack Grealish do well, for example, because he doesn't get that space to carry the ball and draw fouls on the edge of the box. They play passing football everywhere. Do you know what I mean? So it's just two completely different managers with two different styles of football that are both going at it for the title. And it's going to be hard for me because it's going to come down to the last game of the season, and we've got Man City away.
It's Ty makes some brilliant points, especially about the fact that, Keith, by the time Jurgen Klopp's time's up, we obviously hope it's never up, but it always is, right? It's part and parcel of life. He's right in terms of that is a lot on Liverpool's minds, isn't it? That the DNA of Jurgen Klopp, and there's like, for example, Wenger, for example, Fergie. There is that dip when there's such a successful and great man behind a club. Just a subplot to that, Keith. It was muted and it was rumored like Stevie G was sort of going into the Villa job as a learning curve, right? But with the Jurgen Klopp extension, it kind of changes the scenario now, doesn't it? Because Stevie G, and obviously I'll get Ty's opinion on all things like that, but it kind of gives us a bit more stability, a bit more time to assess our options and situation now, doesn't it? As opposed to panic, will Stevie G be ready in 2 years' time kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And our owners, they don't buy into emotion. I don't really think they buy into the romantic story of Steven Gerrard becoming manager of Liverpool. I don't think it's going to happen at all. I just don't see it happening. I don't see the club making that type of decision unless Steven Gerrard builds something at Aston Villa that is such that Aston Villa are a top four competing side. And with all due respect, Aston Villa have the resources available, have the history behind them, have a great stadium with a lot of with a really, there's a lot of atmosphere around it that they really should be going on to the next level. And Steven Gerrard is going to be under a lot of pressure next season to produce and have Aston Villa in the same situation as West Ham have found themselves in, right? West Ham, you know, let's not gloss over this. West Ham have billionaire owners, right? Aston Villa have billionaire. We all have billionaire owners. You know, you get a check and you get a check. Of course, you know, Villa can't spend it in the same way that Man City can because of the way the FFP rules work, right? You can't spend as much as you don't bring in, but he still has a squad that's been built there, and he's going to have opportunities to go out there and build something next season. So if Steven Gerrard turns Aston Villa into a West Ham, then there could potentially be conversations. But other than that, I really don't see it. I would, you know, clip this, remind me of this in
when he is standing there, you know, and holding up the Liverpool shirt once again. Keith said, you know, it's never going to happen.
Clip it. But
I think the opposite. I think he's destined. I think it's near uncertainty that he will be manager of Liverpool at some stage in his career. But obviously, when that takes place, we don't know. So that's a standoff between me and you, which we always like to start off the show.
Love that. Absolutely. And just a quick one on the DNA of Liverpool. I absolutely agree. I think sometimes managers can become, you know, like world leaders, right? Like dictators. They just stay that bit too long, and then it gets, you know, the power after a while becomes such that
wanes. It gets a bit stern.
It becomes insular. The only thing that I would say to caveat that is I do believe that the way that the club is built and structured, Klopp has not had the same amount of power in all of the DNA of Liverpool in the same way that Wenger and Ferguson once got, because the way that sport is created as a business model these days, you know, directors, they just don't allow that type of power. So a lot of the times, what we brought into the club, the type of players we brought in, the type of philosophy is just as much what the owners have gambled on as much as it is Jurgen Klopp. But of course, Jurgen Klopp gets them to produce on the day. But it's a team effort in this Liverpool side compared to the Arsenals and Uniteds of the past.
Spot on. Steve, we go into this game and it's obviously the reverse fixture. Guys, was it Steven Gerrard's first game? No, one of his first.
Third or fourth, yeah.
Third or fourth game,
he was
wasn't
definitely early on, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Steve, that was different circumstances pretty early on in the season. The whole obviously side plot about Stevie G returning to Anfield, etc. This one's a bit different, isn't it? Because we go away to Villa. The Villa crowd will be very much up for it. Pretty much safe. There won't be that much scrutiny, sort of in terms of the Stevie Gerrard and Liverpool thing. I don't think. And then there's the added Phil Coutinho as well now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to ask you. We've spoken about the Steven Gerrard situation. Maybe give us a quick overview on how you feel about Steven Gerrard's situation on the back of what Ty and Keith have said. But I wanted to get your opinion on how you're feeling about the Phil Coutinho scenario. So many Liverpool fans clamoring for him to come back to the Premier League. He does come back to the Premier League, but he doesn't come back to us. He goes to Aston Villa. Thoughts on the Phil Coutinho?
Yeah, I think the context is different this time, isn't it? It's Gerrard will throw down the gauntlet to his players and say, you've got to the end of the season to prove to me that you should be in my plans for next year. And rightly so, because there's a couple of lads that early on in the season, before Smith left, that got themselves into a difficult position in terms of their form and their mentality. That will change. The game itself, it's not the same microscope as last time, because it's been referenced already that the extension that the Klopp's got changes the face of it for Gerrard. Gerrard could be looking at 6 years before Klopp moves on, because Klopp's got the right to extend at the end of this contract. That was written into the deal, so that'll be his decision. So it could be that Gerrard never becomes manager of Liverpool Football Club and he goes and has his own managerial career at Aston Villa for the next 10 years. He will be fine with that because he's a consummate pro. He saw his press conference today. Someone mentioned the 7-2. He said, I wouldn't mind the same result tomorrow night. So he's clearly, laughing about things and saying he's comfortable where he is. Regards Phil Coutinho, I never wanted him back. We know the story, we know the scenario and the shenanigans around his move, the back injury, the paying his own money to go to Barcelona. and then turning out for Brazil with a so-called back. I think that ship sailed for me long before the conversation started about bringing him back. He's a talented boy. We can see that. His loan move at Bayern Munich was particularly successful. He's done some good things for Aston Villa. He had a little bit of a lull in his form and didn't seem to be pulling the strings so much. He'll be motivated against Liverpool to try to prove us, you should have brought me back. He's very friendly with the players still. He's very, very close friends with Jordan Henderson. But sometimes it's how you do things where the door gets closed behind you, and the way he conducted himself. I don't think there was ever a choice to bring him back. Plus the fact the way we play now, I don't see where he fits in the current lineup anyway. So what's Coutinho doing at the moment? He's playing for two things. One is to become Aston Villa's highest paid player ever, and have a contract at Aston Villa with a mighty transfer fee, I would imagine, as well. And the second one, if it doesn't work, he's put himself out in the shop window. So why not try? And there's no better place to do it than against the team that helped nurture and develop him into a world-class player and got all that money for him. And his career's gone off a little bit down a tangent since then. But he will be up to prove all of us wrong. He'll be up to prove something to himself. I think he's got more to prove to himself than anybody, because the comment, if you'd stayed, son, they'd have built a statue. You're just going to go to Barcelona and be another player. All them chickens came home to roost massively, didn't they? So it's a situation for him where it's a bit of a face saver to turn up against Liverpool and help Aston Villa to a result. The Gerrard conversation is played down massively now. The extension has done that, and we're all reconciled, and we're all very, very happy that Gerrard's got his job to do at Aston Villa, and every single Liverpool fan to a man wishes him all the best at Aston Villa and hopes he does a really good job because we love him. He's our boy, but there's no guarantees he's coming back to us. So the context is different. The Gerrard to Liverpool thing is not a conversation anymore. It is purely about, can we win? Can we win well? What are the others going to do in their game?
Absolutely. Ty, Steven Gerrard, talk to us. First, give us your thoughts on when you was linked with him. What was your initial reaction? Was he the man that you wanted or thought where could do a job? And then, obviously, moving on, how's this time been so far? Give us your lowdown on Stevie G's time so far at Villa.
It's a bit of a tricky one, and I think if you asked another 3 or 4 people who do videos on a frequent basis what they think, all of their answers will probably be very different to each other's. I genuinely think it all depends on who you ask. I think it was the right thing for us to bring someone in who's hungry and needs to prove himself in the Premier League. I think it's really disrespectful if anyone calls us a stepping stone for Liverpool, because the owner's ambitions, I'd say in 6 years' time, our owners' ambitions are to be competing with those type of clubs. We have the money to do that, but we can't just keep throwing money at the wall every time we have a bad season. And however, this time round, we have to, because this isn't Stevie's team. And very cliche to say, oh yeah, every manager can get the best out of their players, and I agree to an extent, but Steven Gerrard made it very clear, but before the 5 losses in a row, that there were some players in the team who wouldn't be there at the end of the season, and it was quite clear. I think we're probably past that stage, Grizz, on the back of what you said, where people will be willing to prove themselves. I think he'll already know who he's putting up on the market and who he isn't. You know, I think he'll know who his core players are. He definitely loves John McGinn. He'll most definitely be staying. I think it's just really important for him in terms of his managerial career, because it's very easy to be a footballing great and then everything fall apart. You only have to look at someone like Frank Lampard, who's, you know, not very highly regarded as a football manager. But then you look at someone like Wayne Rooney, who took his club, who have been in financial turmoil, started the season on negative points and fought to the end. And Derby love that guy. You know, they love Wayne Rooney, and it's a managerial career is not an easy thing to do at all. And I mean, I coach at Sunday League level, and that's stressful enough. So, you know, let alone Premier League, I can't even begin to fathom what that's like on a stress level. I'm happy with what he's done so far. There's some things that most definitely need work, but I think that comes down to the players. you can see some great bits in the tactics. I'm a bit annoyed that we've got a bit of a problem at the minute where Emi Buendia and Coutinho play in the same position, and you don't really want to drop Coutinho, but you want to play him because you want to sign him. But you got Emi Buendia who's hungry to prove a point, and he hasn't been starting frequently. And then he's come on the weekend just gone, and he's had an absolute blinding game. He's had one of the best games for us that he's had so far, and he was really the difference. However, especially against you guys with the Coutinho, I think probably exclude Mane and Salah. I think Coutinho has the potential when he's playing his best football. He'll run everybody ragged on that pitch. He is that type of player. He is that caliber. He's not £142 million, third record signing in football history because he's average or because it was a stint in form. I think a lot of it comes down to mentality. When you go to a club like Barcelona of their caliber and everything doesn't work out, that's a huge knock on your confidence, and you need to go to a team where you can find that confidence. And as my good Scouse friend up above me said, he'll definitely be wanting to prove it to himself, because you've gone from Liverpool to Barcelona to Bayern Munich to Aston Villa, who have been predominantly 15th for the last month or so. It's probably not where your career ambitions are. So that I want us to sign Coutinho, but we also need to solve the problem of Buendia and Coutinho, either making them play alongside each other. I don't think either of them want to be fringe players or impact subs, but it's nice to have that depth. It's a good problem to have of, who do you start, because there's that level of talent there. I think it was on the back of I can't remember if it was Steve or Keith, but the transfer fees, I think there has been an agreed transfer fee when we got him on loan. I mean, the wages will be absolutely extortionate, but I think the fee is only like 30 million, which would anyone in the Premier League, probably minus, let's say Liverpool, Man City, probably Chelsea, would anyone not pay 30 million for a 29-year-old Coutinho? I think every other club apart from those three would say absolutely, yeah. Even Man United, I think Man United would take him.
Yeah. Keith, your memories of Phil Coutinho, and sort of Steve makes a good point about we've evolved as a team, and so many people talk about this, but yet as soon as there's a result like yesterday against a team that parks the bus, that plays 5-6 at the back, and we don't create chances, then people say, oh, we didn't. There's always people that throw that line, don't they? We didn't replace Phil. We didn't replace Coutinho. Well, we did replace Coutinho. We just, replaced him with players that were more suited to the Klopp system. Quick question. Did you ever consider taking, not you personally, I know you can afford him. That's a different story completely. But did you ever think Liverpool should have considered taking back Phil Coutinho, or are you happy with the move and both parties have gone their separate ways, and you're happy for Phil to be at Villa and coming back the way he is, or seemingly?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a time when because what I felt Liverpool lacked was the fourth man. Like Coutinho became the fourth man, right? That kind of like number 8, almost like let the front three do their thing, Coutinho behind them and unlocking defenses. He was becoming a lot more of a trusted playmaker, goals from anywhere. Like what Klopp was trying to do with him just before he left was actually evolve the position from being a kind of a left winger into more of an integral, third man midfielder, number 8. I feel like Klopp since then has, that third man, if you will, has become 3 men, slightly more defensively. Those 3 men have now become 2, ultimately with Thiago, Fabinho and Henderson on the 8. So, he's always had that Coutinho-esque role that other players have tried to facilitate since then. However, the reason why I wouldn't have him back today is purely for the fact of his age. He's 29 years old, and ultimately this club at the moment doesn't really go into that market at that age unless it's going to be somebody that's winning Champions League, winning Premier League titles, actually, doing really, really well for themselves. And I think Coutinho he never quite regained that Coutinho at Liverpool. It's the reality. And yeah, we could argue that we could have done with a Coutinho to shoot it from 40 yards and hit the top bins. But you know what? We ended up and just went and signed Diaz, who did exactly that, and is a player who is going to be doing exactly that. So if we were looking for a player that's going to make something out of nothing, we found him already. And for what I say, 50 million quid more than what's going on for Coutinho as well. Much lower in age, much more potential. So yeah, you know, I had a great run with him. Memories of him. He made football exciting again. Remember, we were coming from the doldrums of Hodgson saying we were going to get relegated and, you know, sitting in 10th position and Liverpool, that's it, it's over, talking about how Liverpool would look in the Championship. There was all these conversations. And then one winter we snap up Coutinho, we snap up Daniel Sturridge, and all of a sudden everything changed. So from a memories point of view, if I was gonna eat some of those nostalgic member berries and go back, we had a great time. So you know, shout out to him. And you know, again, a player like him in a game like this, the way we play, is dangerous, right? Remember, a lot of the goals that Liverpool concede are great goals from outside the box, right? Liverpool get counter-attacked, 3v2. A lot of the times, you know, there's millions of miles of space behind us, and a lot of the time it's someone that picks up the ball and has a free shot, has a shot on goal to score a worldie. So he's got it in him tomorrow. He could really score that top bins tomorrow and make things really awkward. That I don't think is off the table. But yeah, wouldn't have him back. Sorry.
He was quite the magician, especially in that final season. But look, Steve, from a Liverpool point of view, taking all that into consideration, and obviously we're going to get to Ty's sort of insight into how they're setting up recently. We've pretty much nailed on, sort of, we know how we're going to set up. What we don't know is sort of what kind of rotation you're expecting tomorrow. What kind of mentality are the players in on the back of, as we said, the disappointing draw, and then knowing the cup finals 4 days away. Give us what you think, and give us what you think Klopp thinks and how he looks at this now, the two set of fixtures in tandem. Because despite saying that we've got to take each game in isolation, very rarely do these elite coaches and fitness people look at it like that. They know, they have everything planned to a T in terms of minutes and everything. And we've spoken about this in the past. How do you think we set up tomorrow in terms of personnel? Do you see a bit of rotation and maybe saving a few for the final, or do you think we've got no margin for error? We've got to do what we've got to do. I don't know. I'm a bit confused, to be honest with you.
I think we rotate to some degree. I think Matip comes back in for Konate, because I certainly would play Konate at the weekend. I think he's now on the verge of being the go-to man to play alongside Van Dijk, because at times it's two defenders on the halfway line, and the fullbacks are so far up the pitch, they're inviting teams to knock the ball over the top and saying, well, go on then, because our centre-backs are quicker than your forwards. You don't get that with Matip. You rely on more of a positional brain than you are athleticism in that regard. And that's not doing Matip a disservice. I actually think Konate might be the quickest player in the club, and that's really saying something for a guy of his size. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Tsimikas. Robbo was rested for the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised at all. For all intents and purposes, and being honest, Robbo didn't have a great game against Spurs and probably could do with having a breather for the weekend. I think Keita might play. I don't think Keita will play against Chelsea, because I think he only came in because of Thiago's injury in the warm-up. I think we will go to the tried and tested midfield of Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago for the cup final. And I think Jota starts instead of Diaz against Aston Villa, purely because we want those guys to be fresh. They'll need to be fresh. They'll need to be at it. They'll need to be creative. They'll need to be bright and create spark against Chelsea, because they'll be ridiculously pragmatic. So what you don't do is run their blood to water on an away game against Aston Villa if you don't have to. And we've got a squad now where we don't have to. So I think 3 or 4 changes. We'll see 3 or 4 changes. Bottom line, Grizz, is there are 3 trophies we can influence. There are 3 trophies we can win. And there's 1 trophy we want to win, but we're relying on other people doing us a favour. You can't match relying on other people to do us a favour by exhausting your players you're going to need for Champions League finals and FA Cup finals. There is a balance, you're quite right. And there is the fact that the laptop's out and we know who's been in the gym today and who we've looked at and all the potential for injury and stuff like that. And Klopp will be told. by the medical team who's available to play. That's how we've been doing it. So I expect a little bit of rotation, but it will still be strong.
Ty, I want to come to you and I want to get your, because obviously, as always, what happens when a hero goes to a Premier League club, the fan base follows that hero's, how he's doing at the club. So we followed Steven Gerrard for probably his first 5-6 games, and then it just kind of, we start focusing on your own club because we've got a quadruple to win, looking less and less likely now. But you know what I mean. And so our attention switches to our club. I haven't been following Villa too much in terms of how they've been setting up recently, in terms of formation. Has he tweaked anything? Has he got a set formation that he genuinely plays most of the time? Formation-wise and tactics-wise, what's he doing these days, Stevie G? With you guys?
I mean, there's times where we are in a 4-3-3 with Coutinho out wide, but then against Burnley, we set up in a 4-3-1-2 with Callum Chambers as the CDM, and then Ings and Ollie Watkins up front with Buendia just behind them. We tried it with 2 cams and 1 striker, and it didn't really work. But against Burnley, we looked very good in that shape. Most definitely.
So he hasn't got a fixed formation per se, like that he's been using again and again. Are you saying he varies it from opposition to opposition? Does he definitely play 4 at the back? Has he been playing 3 at the back in any games or whatever?
I think there might have been 1 or 2. My memory's terrible, so forgive me. But I think there's been 1 or 2 games where he's lined up as a 3. No, in fact, maybe, definitely no more than 1 or 2. But sometimes Coutinho's played out on the left, and then Leon Bailey starting out on the right, and then Watkins, Ings up front, one or the other. But Coutinho has predominantly played as a 10, and some games he's gone out wide. But against Burnley, you're probably looking at like a 4-3-1-2.
Knowing that, Keith, and we know how Villa are going to have the crowd up for it. We know they can be quite good out on their own patch, and we know we got no margin for error. We have to go for the win. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I'm intrigued to see how Stevie G's going to set up against us. I'm going to get Ty's prediction on the team lineup he thinks is going to start tomorrow. For you, what are you doing with Liverpool-wise? Steve thinks it's going to be about 4 or 5 changes with an eye to the FA Cup final, which again is against a rival that we won't want to lose to, quite a fierce rival in Chelsea. How are you assessing the situation in terms of team lineups for both games?
Well, what I hope is that Joel Matip comes back. For me, and I understand Klopp made the point about Konate and his pace against Son and against Kane, and I respect that to a certain extent. But ultimately, we have broken down teams with
It's Omar, yeah. That's his wisecrack.
Keep that together there, mate.
That's his wisecrack of the day. All right, bye, Omar.
Love it. Nice one, Omar. Yeah, for me, that was a bit of an error, in my opinion. Joel Matip is one of our best playmakers. It cannot be denied. From deep, he's one of our best playmakers. He's the man that brings the ball out when we're playing packed defenses, and he finds the pass. He takes on a couple of men, arguably one of the best dribblers, like face to face. He always takes on a man, and he always makes something happen, right? In these kind of situations when there's 6-7 man in the box. And I think we missed him terribly against Spurs because I didn't really see any of that. We kept trying to go wide. We kept trying to put balls into the box, and it just didn't work. And we had nothing going through the middle. So for me, if Steven Gerrard is a pragmatic coach, he's become this pragmatic coach, right? I would argue that he would have watched the Conte blueprint, like Conte looked at the Sean Dyche blueprint, like Sean Dyche looked at the Sam Allardyce blueprint. There is a blueprint to play Liverpool. And Klopp says he didn't like it. And to be perfectly honest with you, most fans of most football clubs wouldn't be able to enjoy that type of football through an extensive period of time. But against Liverpool, it works to a T, because what you do, you frustrate them and you hope that one long pass finds the right man, and all of a sudden you're turning in 3v3 situations. let's look at the goal we conceded, right? Emerson Royale had no business being in the position he was in. He just so happened to be there because Spurs picked up the ball quickly enough and he was getting back into position. Same thing can happen for Aston Villa, and they can find that. So for me, it's not necessarily about stopping Villa from counter-attacking us and keeping up with the pace. It's more about breaking down what's going to be a very stubborn defense. So that's my Joel Matip has to start, and I'm pretty sure that he probably will start in that game. I thought Jordan Henderson, again, for me, he's becoming more and more of an impact sub than he is a starting player. Liverpool, I've seen him come on games when we've needed him and change the game. But when I've seen him start games, I felt that after the first 20, 25 minutes, things are not going right. He tries to do things don't pull off. He almost gets cross between old Jordan Henderson, where it was backwards and sideways and protect, and Jordan Henderson that he tried to prove himself to Klopp as a number 8, trying to force things and make things happen when he not necessarily has the quality to do so. So, for me, Henderson for Keita in that situation. And look, I think other than that, with Fabinho, with Thiago, I wouldn't be surprised maybe if we see James Milner. Honestly, I'm just saying that now. I would not be surprised if we see James Milner because I think Fab has had it in the legs a little bit, even though he had a great first half. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start as well. Maybe Milner, Keita, Thiago, very well be the middle three. The front three, at some point, Klopp's going to have he's going to have to stick with his front three. I know we've got 5 players. I know we need to rotate, but I think at some point he's got to find the balance because there is a little bit of imbalance at the moment between the Diaz and Salah partnership. Diaz is very much a pick up the ball, run at them, make things happen myself. He's not seeing the runs that Salah makes. Salah's doing the same thing on his side, and he's trying to run, cut in, and make things happen. Yes, there will be times when they pass to each other, but their instinct is to score 9 times out of 10. So at some point, we've got to make that happen. So let's start it now. Let's go on a run with Diaz, Mane, and Salah if this is going to be the front three that Klopp's going to like. And let's start to make it a little bit consistent. Jota, unfortunately, he needs to play his way back into form and back into the team. So, I mean, I think I've just fucking given my 11. Sorry for swearing. But this is kind of, how I'm seeing it at the moment. There needs to be...
Run it through one time. Give us your predicted lineup for tomorrow then. Yeah.
Alisson, Joel Matip, Virgil van Dijk, Tsimikas, Trent, James Milner, Keita, and Thiago, Diaz, Mane, and Salah. That would be my starting 11.
Steve, give us your one then, my friend, taking that into consideration. Because I get the points Keith's making. Look, James Milner, Aston Villa legend, Leeds, with so many clubs legends, I've just forgot there's another link because James Milner to Aston Villa as well. So that's another subplot. We'll get Ty's opinions on James Milner. Do you start him in a game like this? He wasn't afraid to start him against Newcastle away. An equally as hard game away, brilliant away crowd. And James Milner was awesome in that game. But do you do it, Steve, tomorrow? If you're
no, I don't. And I'll tell you why. Newcastle's midfield could never be described as dynamic in terms of what they offer you. With St Maxim's dynamic, but John Joe Shelby isn't, and Sean or Matty Longstaff certainly aren't. Coutinho is. McGinn is. You don't want to play Milner in a game where he's on the stretch. You can't play him like that anymore, not at his age. You need mobility, and you need someone who's able to deal with that. And I think we see the best of Milner in games like Newcastle where he can lock horns with someone toe-to-toe, isn't going to run by him because they don't have pace in the centre of the park. It'd be an interesting race between Milner and Shelby. Even at 37, I think Milner's got a shout for that one. What you don't want is Coutinho dropping his shoulder and going past him. That's inviting trouble for me. Listen, I'm not knocking James Milner. The man's an absolute legend. Arguably the best free transfer we've ever had. But arguably the best free transfer football's ever had for what you look at what he's achieved. But I don't think you can afford to play him in games where there's a potential for your midfield to play on the stretch. We saw it last season under duress that Thiago doesn't respond well to playing on the stretch either. He's a guy who controls the game of football with the ball at his feet. I think we need to be quite tight in there because I think that's the strength of Aston Villa's in the middle of the park.
Interesting opinions there, Ty. We need to pass this information on to Jurgen Klopp and the coaching staff. So can you get it right, please? It's very important, imperative that you tell us the exact lineup that you think is going to be employed tomorrow, mate. First and foremost, is there any injuries that we don't know about, or that the team's sort of like definitely ruled out? Like, we know, I read Ramsey, the young kid, he's definitely out, isn't he? And he's a wonderful talent, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just signed a new deal with a nice wage packet. Let's just put it that way. For his age, he's not doing too bad. I think we go unchanged. You know, we've just beat a Burnley side who have been in probably the best form of their season, and we've just given them an absolute schooling in their own backyard. So we're full of confidence, and you guys play that spoiled brat football where you draw and you're all sulky about it. But I understand that. In fact, no, spoiled brat. That's completely wrong of me, because
no, we are.
No, it is. You're at that level. If you weren't there with Man City, you wouldn't care about a draw with Spurs. But you've got two teams who you can't afford to drop a single point. You get room for one or two howlers a season. That's all the level you two are at. You get room for one or two stinkers a season. That is.
Guess how many games we've lost this calendar year, Ty? Or not this calendar year, sorry, going back as well.
Like, you haven't lost this calendar year at home, have you?
We've actually lost. Inter Milan doesn't count because it was a nothing game. 2 games. You've lost 2 games. And we're still not favourites for the title. Do you see the levels that these two teams are operating at? It's absolutely insane. But look, you're right. Some are entitled to become sport brats. You know, I know what you mean by that. And it's a crazy.
Do you want another interesting stat to ease your nerves? Liverpool haven't dropped a single point against sides starting the day in the bottom half of the table this season, winning all 18 games by an aggregate score of 52-4.
That's ridiculous.
So if you're playing teams in the bottom half of the table, you've scored 52 goals and conceded 4. I mean, I kind of feel sorry for you that you're playing that level of football and it's still not enough. Like, and that's where it's tough for you guys. It is. And I hope we give you a good game. I really do hope we give you a good game. I'm not just a lover of Aston Villa. I'm a lover of football. So as much as I'm going to be supporting Villa, I think it's a privilege for me to be able to go to the place I love and watch world-class players like Salah. Like, don't get it wrong, he'll score. I'll call him every word under the sun.
Of course.
But it's still, I appreciate being able to see the best footballers in the world, because in my opinion, he's the most informed player in world football at the minute, and he's the credits he's been getting are absolutely warranted. So, I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to that as a lover of football, but you know,
it is. Look, how do you feel about it going into the game? Because it is a bit of a. We know some fans hate the word free hit, but you're safe, right? You're completely safe. You're completely sort of. I don't think you're. Are you? You know, you can't. Yeah, there's no chance of getting in Europa, is there, or conference?
If we win, we're 4 points off Wolves.
Yes. But what I meant in terms of playing your game, in terms of he's going to go out and send you, because some are saying Steven Gerrard, like Keith was saying, is he pragmatic? Do you think he's going to try to play on the counter? Because you played Man City earlier on in the season fantastically well. You really attacked them, you pushed them, and I thought you were unlucky not to get a result against them. Even against Chelsea, you were fantastic against Chelsea. So do you think he's going to go out with this sort of idea to just take us on type thing, as opposed to Conte the other day?
My problem with Villa is we're at that point, and it's really annoying, where you don't know which Aston Villa turn up on the day, and that's the most frustrating part, is you don't know which Villa you're going to get. We usually get a decent 45 of football and then an absolutely shoddy 45 of football. I'm hoping that's what we eliminate next year, is just the consistency of the 90 minutes. But tomorrow, the past doesn't mean anything to him tomorrow. Yeah, of course he loves Liverpool, but he's there as a manager, and
he's been very good about that. He's been very good about that as well. He's been very professional.
He's been class, but
Yeah.
I think it'll be no push. I think it's going to be a great game.
I
It's
think
going to
so
be a
as well.
slugfest. I mean, I hate the line you play. I mean, Spurs did you with it, and Heung-min Son is an incredible footballer. It's just and Ollie Watkins, don't get me wrong, he ain't having the greatest season, but I tell you what, he'll give you centre backs.
We know. We've had nightmares with him.
Really
pick us your 11 then. Do you think that's expected kind of lineup?
If we go with the same as last week, I don't think Coutinho starts, by the way.
Whoa. Bombshell.
Emmy in goal, Martinez, Luka Dean, who he's, spent a lot of time at Everton. He'll be taking that game a bit personal.
Oh, yeah.
Warren Mings, Ezri Konsa, Matty Cash. I think Callum Chambers goes into the 6 again.
Wow.
John McGinn, Douglas Luiz, a little bit higher. Buendia in the 10, and Ings and Watkins. I genuinely think we stay the same. Or if there's one change, I think the one change would be Buendia for Coutinho. But however, I can't see him dropping Buendia after the game he's had. There's no way he can drop him. You just can't. He's been the difference.
That would be quite a selection. Can you imagine how Phil will feel though? Like not being selected. So he wasn't selected on the weekend, right? Was he?
He was on the bench.
He was on the bench. So he was on the bench, guys, and you'd automatically assume that means rested for the Liverpool game, right? Because he's going to give his flowers for the Liverpool game. But then, as Ty says, if he's not going to be selected for that's going to be quite a kick in the goalies for him, Keith. I don't know how you.
I think it would be stupid to change a team after the result we had against Burnley. I really do, but maybe one or two. But I just can't see him. I just can't see him starting. I can't see him. I can't see us playing two cams. I can't see him dropping Buendia back. I see no other way. Buendia has to start tomorrow. That's just an absolute dead cert for me.
Who's the danger man for you, Keith, in that case? And give us your score prediction.
See, I'm like in between Istanbul and Liverpool giving Aston Villa a peppering. This is where I'm at right now. Because it's interesting what you said in terms of the Spurs had to play. They had the way they had to play because they needed the points. I don't think we would have seen that Spurs performance had they not necessarily needed the points for a particular situation. There's a lot of pressure on that. I wonder in Villa's situation how much you really need those points and how likely is it you're going to close Wolves down. If you need those points, I don't see Gerrard going toe-to-toe. I actually see it being a situation where the line gets triggered and it becomes a very, very dangerous game. I can also see it in a situation where if the team kind of see it as, no, we've just got a few points left to play for. I've already booked my holiday to Ibiza kind of vibe, and they go toe to toe.
I know we're
dangerous, in my
opinion. If we win, we're 4 points off Wolves. Yeah, so we've 2 games left. So it's a long shot, but it's still. I mean, it's still possible for us to finish 9th. Brighton are in 9th on 47, but they've played 2 games more than us. That's 4 points there. But we have got you and Man City in those, in 2 of the 4. So, but we've got Burnley again, and we've got Crystal Palace. So if we beat Palace, we're above them into 10th, and then hopefully we take something from Burnley again at home. So, but I think it'll be 4-0 or 2-1.
Well,
I've gone too early on the prediction.
No, you haven't nailed it. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it, which one you're going to choose, and choose it wisely and carefully.
I'm going to say on the back of what we've done, it's a 2-1, but it all depends on what Villa show up, where we can be a bit rusty. We can start slow. That has been a common theme. But, I don't want to say my club are going to lose 4-0 to Liverpool, but I think we're just going to have a class Tuesday night. One of those games where you're like, do you know what? I love football. I just think it's going to be one of them.
Is that what you're anticipating? A gung-ho type game and open? I guess people will say a totally different contrast to the Spurs game. Tell us how you think the game's going to pan out, and then let's get predictions, and then let's wrap this up. Because I just put the link in the chat, and there's about 8 people already waiting to call in. So shows like they didn't want interest in what we got to say. They just wanted their face on the camera straight away, and you know what I mean. So I think nice of them.
I think they're reminded of what they need to do to stay in the title race. I think that will be made constantly since the end of the Spurs game. because we were 14 points behind Manchester City, and all we needed to do was stay in the race, and look what happened. City Villa's a tough game. City Wolves is a tough game. Both of those sides will give nothing to Manchester City. They'll have to work for it. So there is a potential for, well, we hope, for a slip up there. That would mean nothing if we didn't apply ourselves to our games. I think there'll be a little bit of a backlash from what happened at the weekend because Klopp was clearly irritated by the performance. And that's why he made the comments about the way that Spurs play, and he couldn't do that, which he's today apologised for because he was emotional and irrational when he's irritated and emotional. I think Liverpool come out tomorrow and say to the rest of the Premier League, well, Manchester City, if you're going to win it, you're going to have to win it because we're not going to make it easy for you. So I think Liverpool come out strong tomorrow, and I think we'll win by 2, maybe 3 goals.
I want an accurate prediction.
4-1. I think they'll score.
Ooh.
I think we'll score. I think the point that Ty made before about the amount of goals we score, we have something to do tomorrow that we have to address the balance following the weekend, and that makes us dangerous.
Fair enough. Ty, we've given you a couple of minutes to think about it.
2-1. I'm going 2-1.
2-1 Villa, yeah?
No, 2-1 Liverpool.
Oh, 2-1 Liverpool. Okay, fair enough. No, it's been very, very...
Yeah, I was never saying 2-1 in our favour. I mean, I think we've had our free hit on you, and I don't think anyone will score 7 goals past you again.
Oh, yeah.
Powers, bro.
Yeah, that was mad. That was an absolute mad one, that one. They made it tough for us, Keith. So, Anfield. What do you think then? How are you looking at this? Give us a prediction.
They did, but I think Villa maybe with an early goal, but then I think we win 3-1. And actually, I think once we're going to get an early scare, that's what I'm predicting. But I think we're just going to turn into juggernaut mode after that. We've got no injuries. That's the most important thing. We've got all our best players available, and that's when you come into these situations where Van Dijk might have a niggle, where Trent might have a niggle. Okay, this situation, I can't see us doing nothing but getting those 3 points.
I hope so, man. I hope so. It's getting tense. It's getting tense as we get into the last couple of weeks, man. It's mental. Mad games every 3 days. It's absolutely mad. First, we go to Villa Park. Must admit, I'm not saying this just because Ty is here, but one of my favourite away grounds. The atmosphere is always rocking. And it will be a night game, at Villa Park. I've actually got a ticket, so I'm actually going to go, which is going to be fun. Guys, just want to thank you all for coming on and making this chat so easy. My job is so easy when you got people that know what they're talking about and are respectful of each other's views, and that's what you guys have been. It's been fantastic company and pleasure as always. So Ty, Steve, Keith, you've been all fantastic, guys. This has been the part 1 of the call-in show today, guys. I'm gonna let these guys go now, and then you eager beavers in the chat that are waiting, I'll bring you on. But guys, thanks very much, man. Take care. Look after yourselves. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Peace.
All right, people in the chat. Let's go. All right, where we at? How many of you in here? I need to get you lot all telling me you got a camera. I need all your cameras, people. And as you know, you can wave at me as much as you want. You can try to bribe me as much as you want. But I always like new callers. New opinions, new narratives, people that haven't been on the show before. I like to give an opportunity. So we have Karan. Who's going to be the first caller. Karan, how are you, my friend? You okay?
Hi, Chris. How are you? I'm doing great.
Oops, sorry, I put myself on mute there. Good. I'm doing great as well. How are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from India. It's like one of the rare opportunities I get to catch a show live.
Yeah, I know people are always saying, Grizz, you got to do a show where it's more easy for us to view and call in. So look, your wishes are my command. How are you? What do you want to talk about, my friend, today?
So I'm not sure about your opinion, but as per me, I guess with this weekend's results, for me, the title is done. I can't see us clawing back a 3-point deficit. If it was a point, maybe we could have done it. But 3 points would imply that City needs to at least lose one, and we need to cover up the goal difference, which for me is a bit too much to ask from a team like City. So
No, I understand. I understand what you mean. Yeah.
yeah. So that leaves us in the situation where we have the Carabao Cup in the bag, we have the FA Cup final, and we have the Champions League final. Finals can go anyway, and so the best case for us is we win all three, and the worst case is we end up with just the Carabao Cup. Obviously, if we get the Carabao Cup and the Champions League, that for me is a successful season. But I wanted to know, in your opinion, suppose we get just the Carabao Cup or the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, is that a kind of a very anticlimactic end to the season? Because for me personally, it is.
Look, this is the $1 million question that every WhatsApp group with Liverpool fans and every Liverpool fan is asking their friends, and everyone's asking each other's opinions. Like, guys, we've come so far. We are so close to anything ranging from immortality to an absolute, no, not disaster, but some even class it as failure. You know, if we just end up with the Carabao Cup. Everyone has their own opinions. Everyone has their own expectation levels and realities. For me, if we just end up with the League Cup, I wouldn't call the season a failure. I think failure is too harsh of a word to call it a failure. Because if you told me failure and we lose the league by 1 point and then we reach the Champions League final and the FA Cup final, I would say massive disappointment. Massive disappointment.
Yes, correct.
But to call it a failure, no, because we've done better than 95% of teams in world football. So I wouldn't call it a failure. A failure would be, God forbid, not getting into the Champions League. A failure would be no trophy and 4th place. That's a failure in my eyes, in my opinion. Or even finishing 3rd is a failure, you know, in my opinion. So I would never call it a failure, but it would be a massive disappointment. If we get the 2 domestic trophies only, the FA Cup and the League Cup, I personally would class it as a good season. Not a failure, not a disappointment, not a great season, but a good season. And then anything on top, my brother, it's been an amazing season. It's been a roller coaster of emotions and rides and fantastic. Because you got to remember where we're coming from, Karan. From last season, majority of pundits and people have written us off. They've written us off. It's the end of the Liverpool era. And so therefore, our players coming back from huge injuries. So taking all that into consideration, we've made a massive turnaround and a fist of it. So everyone has their own levels of what they expect and what they term success and failure. That's the way I look at it. What do you think?
I think that's correct. I mean, just the Carabao Cup would be, I guess, disappointing, but considering we have to compete with City, it's fine. I just really hope we at least get the Champions League, because I feel like for the team that we have had and for the performances that we have put in and for the amount of work that Klopp has put in for this club, we need a lot.
He deserves it.
Yeah, he deserves a lot more silverware than we are getting. And I mean, for Liverpool fans, every Liverpool fan will always know what Klopp has done for this club. But for world football, I think we just deserve that little bit more of silverware so that he can get the recognition that he deserves. And I feel like he's like one of the most disrespected coaches in the world currently.
Yeah, no, he is. But again, you know, it's I don't think he's the kind of guy that's worried about what people think of him. Like genuinely, like he's genuinely not one of those guys that really cares what outside people think of him, as long as the fan base and the club is behind him. And for sure, you know, we know that the club and the fan base is 100% behind him. But yeah, man, it's a tense time. You know, starting with Villa tomorrow and the cup final. What's your views on the cup final against Chelsea? How are you feeling?
So my views on Chelsea are very similar to yours. I desperately want to win that game. I think it will be very close. Chelsea has a knack to turn up in such games, big games. We can see last year's UCL final against City, and even the one against Bayern Munich, where you could argue throughout the campaign they were not favourites at all to win it. but somehow they ended up with the trophy. So they have a bit of a history with doing that. Considering that they're the form they're in, they will go in as the underdogs. And I just I think we'll get through. I hope it's not doesn't go to penalties, because my heart cannot take that again, and we get it done in 90 minutes. For me, I think we'll win that 2-1, maybe 3-1, depending on how things goes. But focus for now is on the Villa game.
Absolutely, absolutely, exactly. You corrected me actually. The focus should have been on the Villa game. I skipped one game ahead because I'm pretty nervous about that, because people know my feelings on Chelsea, and I'm actually going to that cup final as well. But listen, it was a pleasure speaking to you, man, Karan. We've got a few people waiting to jump on.
Yeah, sure.
Nice
Thanks for
chatting to
having
look
me on.
after yourself. No problem. Take care, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? We've got Shoaib Khan in the building. Let's get Shoaib up on screen. Shoaib, how are you, my brother?
Yeah, hi, Grace. I'm all good. Been a avid follower of your channel for the long time. Been following your content and it's something which keeps us going. In this. Sometimes when the team doesn't perform, you are there up there. So that's really good to know. And like you keep the spirits high in that sense. But yeah, it's mostly the job done by the team. Really happy. Like in the sense that something. We have built over the past 6 or 7 years. Now, just coming back from the 2013 as such, and yeah, so what I do feel is, like when you view this in the context of the bigger picture, we have Klopp there for the next 3 to 4 years, which is for the next 4 years, which is a big thing. And yeah, of course, like there's a disappointment in there. They're disappointed that we could not, go in for the for this particular Spurs game. But yeah, something which we can put in behind and look at the bigger picture. So yeah, a lot of fans like me back in India wanted to connect with you as well. So thanks for this, please.
Mention not, brother. It's
And
an absolute,
yeah,
absolute pleasure.
yeah.
Absolute pleasure. Which part of India are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Bangalore, and it's pretty much nighttime here, 12:30 around. But yeah, good to connect with you as
Amazing,
such.
amazing.
And yeah,
Absolutely humbled by your support, guys. I obviously I try to fit the call-in shows around a time which is convenient for everyone. But listen,
yep.
absolutely humbled. Listen, I wanted to ask you. So on the back of the previous caller, Karan, who was from India as well, amazingly. What constitutes a failure, good, success, an amazing season for you?
Personally, for me, seeing the team risen from almost the ashes from the last season itself is like a huge success. Like reviving from that time itself is a huge success. We were completely down last time around. I could remember the Allison goal. I would definitely remember the performance put in by Nat Phillips and Reece James back in there, which are like something which you cannot imagine any other club. Like getting back from there, I think only Klopp can do that probably. And like when we have come to this point wherein we are competing in we're in two finals. We have already won a final, which itself is something which like is tremendous. And I of course believe that going by the current form, and like of course a sense check in terms of Spurs. I think we are pretty strong in terms of when we'll be playing with Chelsea and when we'll be playing with Real Madrid as well. So yeah, you cannot say that Man City is a bad team to lose or bad team to draw with. Even in terms of when we look at the entire season as a whole, there have been ups and downs. When you look at back in the January terms, I think we had lost almost practically most of the hope. But yeah, we're still going strong. But now when I look at the whole context, the bigger picture, I do feel when Klopp is here for 4 years, yeah, it's a time when like there's a minor set of disappointment, but I do feel this is a very successful season. I feel that we are setting the base for something great ahead. We have great signings, and yeah, and going by the the faith which we have, and of course was catching up on your show as well back in like the the 90 minutes football. So you really ripped apart some of the people with like what Klopp comments is.
They
So,
forget, don't
yeah,
they?
yeah,
They have
yeah.
to, you have to sometimes correct some of the thoughts of these guys.
Yeah,
It's a weird,
absolutely.
it's a weird way of looking at what Klopp says. It's making something out of nothing and sort of getting their facts wrong. One of the guys was speaking about Man City being one of the greatest efforts or something like that. He said in winning
Yeah,
the Premier League. So I thought that was strange. I had to correct him on that. Sorry, can you put down? I can hear the echo in the background. Can you? Is there?
Oh, is it? Yeah, just give me 1 sec.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Can't do what you're doing, but yeah, I think
Yep.
you're referring to the guys that said that Pep winning without a false nine is one of the greatest achievements. I said,
Yep,
well, hold on a second.
absolutely.
Jurgen Klopp was one of the first ones to do that with Bobby Firmino, who's not a striker, was not a recognized striker. So, and then I think he realized I was right, and he kind of just kept quiet. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
good to.
absolutely. I think the kind of changes with Klopp has been in, and he's like every year he's adopting. He's taking us to the next level, like trend transformation. The way Salah plays in right now, as compared to like a couple of seasons ago, it's like it's changing all the while. We are adapting a lot, and sometimes we tend to pass on with this. Like in the last year or so, the way he adopted the team with the kind of changes we could see with the backline totally disturbed, but still we could finish in the third, which is itself is like a huge accomplishment. And then this year around, like I think last year Klopp mentioned at the beginning of the season that we'll go full, will attack the league instead of defending the league. Now this year we can see that like what he meant when all Thiagos and all your like your Van Dijks come in, and when we see a full attacking squad, we can see that what his psychology and what his philosophy. And I really believe that Klopp is a man in terms he's emotional. He's a manager, but I intend he's itself is a fan. Like he has those emotional side of things, and I don't want a robot like someone else who is. I don't want to take call out names, but who is less just being there. I want someone who is human, who has his emotions when he's speaking out with the people in the press conference. Yeah, but so I really get that there is something, this emotional side of the things, they take more control of him. But you need to understand the context before you like just what the social media does, just takes comments out of context and just puts in there, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, really glad
Absolutely.
that we have an intelligent fellow like who is like, and absolutely like these kind of vultures are just trying to pick things out of context and put in there. But yeah,
It's look, when you're at the top and you're winning and you're successful and you've done it pretty much organically, they have to have something. They have to try to choose something to
yeah,
pick on, and that's what
absolutely.
it's a case of. But look, as long as we win, we don't really care, as I said, about outside thoughts and how people perceive us. We're not insecure like other clubs, Man City, namely, and their manager who's so insecure and worried about sort of how he's perceived. Jurgen Klopp doesn't come across like that at all. But listen, Shoaib, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, my
Yep,
friend.
absolutely.
Nice
Yeah,
one. Take care of
good
yourself.
to speak to you again. Yeah, would hang you up. Yeah, take care, man, and hopefully the dream will still his dream is still alive, as you mentioned. And yeah, by God's grace, you never know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Look after
yeah.
yourself. Nice speaking to you. Take care of yourself. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Okay, we've got the next caller ready to come in, and we've got Shaz. I think he's a first time caller as well. Shaz, hope you're doing well, my friend.
Can you hear me, bro?
Yes, my friend. All is good. Tell us where you're calling from, my friend.
I'm calling from East London, I think close to you.
Whereabouts in East London?
Wanstead.
I know Wanstead, man. Yeah. I know
Yeah,
Wanstead
cool,
very
Wanstead.
well. I grew up in Leighton, man. Around the
Okay,
corner
that's
from
around
you.
the corner, 10 minutes away.
Yeah, Leighton, Walthamstow. That's the area I grew up, man.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, really good, bro. Yeah, I just want to talk about sort of our game management this season.
Mhm.
I think that's where, personally, I think that's where sort of the league has gone now in terms of cost us too many points.
Mhm.
So that the top of my head, some of the games at Brighton where we were 2-0 up, we bottled it. Brentford, we had 2-goal lead, bottled it. Man City, where Salah scores an unbelievable goal with that 10 minutes to go, we can't hold on. At the Bridge, 2-0 up, let it go. I think these are the games where it sort of cost us. And you think kind of that's Klopp has to kind of train that on the training pitch in terms of how, when we're up 2 goals, how do we manage the game? How do we see it out? Because there's a lot of games we have seen kind of where say we're just holding on with a 1-goal lead. We're always 100 miles per hour trying to go for the next goal, Why not sometimes take to the corner flag, waste time, a bit of the dark arts? I don't see it. I don't see that in us.
Yeah, look. Sorry. Let you finish.
There's a margin because with this league title, look, and don't get me wrong, we've been unbelievable this season. You can't fault the lads, but the margin for error in this league with this Man City side is almost zero. So we've got to look at every kind of, every possible aspect. And I think that's one side where we can definitely improve. Because if we hold on against Brighton, against Chelsea, against Brentford, we're 3 points clear right now.
Yeah, no, you look, you're right. It's those games that will come back to haunt us. But notice all these games that you've said were sort of in the early part of the season or, before Christmas, around that period. Especially the games the likes of Brighton and the Brentford. I think Leicester was around Christmas, wasn't it? That was a damaging one. It is what it is with this manager. I agree with you in terms of the dark arts. We're not as sharp. We're not as streetwise as a few other teams that we know or we could mention. But yeah, the thing is, we got to accept the manager that we've got. He is.
No, don't get me wrong. Klopp, really love Klopp, man. There's nothing, I'm not against anything, but it's that one thing where I see because.
No, it's frustrating. I know what you mean. Because look, there is no such thing as a perfect team. There is no such thing as a perfect coach. So there is issues and things that you can look into to make yourself. How can we become even better?
Exactly. That's what we just. Yeah.
How did we not get over the line in certain situations, in certain games? Look, at the end of the day, those games, there's no excuse for being 2-0 up at home to Brighton and drawing. Brentford, there's no excuse not being able to hold on. But he's that kind of manager that he just doesn't instill. What's the word I'm looking for? He doesn't want his team to rest on their laurels.
Keep going.
Yeah, he keep going. He's that kind of manager. And you're right. Sometimes it works against us. But we have to admit, majority of the time, that works for us. That spirit that is instilled in them, that spirit that is instilled into them, it works for us. How many times have we rescued lost causes? Yeah. So people can tell you about so many of their teams when they go behind is dead. They're finished. They're not going to come back. They know they're lost. We don't feel like that for Liverpool.
With Man City now, you look at it. Man City have literally. I don't think any time they've gone ahead this season, they've gone on to win the game. Only once at the Etihad against us, they didn't. And so when I'm watching Man City games now and they go a goal ahead, I turn the TV off because I know it's over. But with us,
also,
I think the other way.
But you could say the reverse for them. When they go behind, have they got the willpower and the mentality that we have?
Yeah, that's true.
Can you? You can ask that, can't you? Because how many games have they rescued? When they go behind, when the tide's against them, and they can't get a chance to implement their perfect game. We're not like that.
The problem is that hardly ever happens. That hard. They always score in the first 10 minutes and it's done.
Well, you say that, but did you? Why didn't they do that against Real Madrid? Why didn't they kill off the
Champions League. No, Champions League is completely different. I'm talking about just the
Not even Champions League. What happened against Southampton? What happened against Palace? What happened against Wolves? They've lost games where they've gone behind and they've not been able to rescue it. Yeah. So it's a give and take situation. Both clubs have different philosophies. Both coaches have different philosophies and mentalities. Our one doesn't believe in the dark arts or hasn't. Even if he does, he hasn't rubbed off on the players. And I get what you're saying, but again,
I'll ask you. Say you're a goal ahead with 10 minutes to go. I'm not saying dive around, but I'm just saying keep the ball better. It seems like
I think we've become much better at it. I think we've become definitely much better at it. All the examples that you've given did happen in the first half of the season. In the second half,
I think with Thiago, when Thiago's here, it definitely helps.
Absolutely. Look, I feel the frustration
I'm just trying to look
I
at
know.
it, the way I have this title gone. I think that's where I can. That's the only place I can look at. Otherwise, we've been faultless. It's just their game management. I think it's cost us. Other than that, you know, what else can you really say?
It's. I know where you're coming from, but it's harsh to say it's cost us. Like you're saying, it's cost us. Like it's disastrous. Like what's happened, man? Like with disaster, we haven't got a right to win the Premier League. No one has an entitlement to win the league. Yeah, you got to go out there, and we're competing against. Sometimes you have to accept we're competing against a juggernaut, man. We're competing against an oil state that has unlimited funds. Every season, shit happens. Are we going by Grealish 100 million? Are we going by Haaland 100 million? Are we going by whoever? We have to work differently, and I think sometimes it's very easy to sometimes get carried away and say, pick on little things. As I said, there's no such thing as a perfect team. If you speak to City fans this week, they're fuming. The fans I'm speaking to, like, why can't we get over this Champions League? Fuming. Yeah, so for them, just winning a domestic league, like Pellegrini was winning domestic leagues with them.
For them, it's nothing special. They need a big one, Champions League.
They need big ones, man. They need Champions League. This is in his sixth season now, and he's not got past that. So their fans, well, there you go. So we can talk about our game management, and you're right. There is certain games in the season that we could have managed much better, but I think we've become much better. Look at our game management when we won the season, when we won the league. It was near perfect. It was like when we took the lead, team switched off.
Yeah,
give up. Yeah? But then we had that horrible season where we lost all our centre backs and so many other injuries.
That was right.
But look at it. Now we're coming back from that season. We've rebuilt the fitness of certain players. Let's not forget that the players that we've built back, fitness back, maybe that affected us part of the season. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So all those players that were injured for the rest of this last season have come back this season and regained their fitness. And maybe they weren't at their peak. We know they weren't at their peak. We know Virgil wasn't at his peak.
Those pictures I've listed, they happened early on in the season. Yeah. It's just I'm just still looking. Obviously, it's frustrating because it's gonna. Obviously,
it's frustrating. It's frustrating because it's frustrating because apart from 2 or 3 games, we've been near perfect. And how can I say that? It's because we're in every final. We're in every final, man. Who else can say that? In the last 2 weeks of the season, we're the only club that have reached this far. Now we're nervous. I sense a bit of nervousness inside you, and I sense a bit of tense, man, because I know your boys are telling you if you only end up with the league, they're gonna cuss you. I know you're feeling that. We need to get over the line. We need to get over the line. But tell them how it is, man. Say.
I've said, look, end of the day, we win the FA Cup and the Champions League. Anyone would even City would swap their season for our season. So
all day, the owners would chop your hands off for that, man. 100%. Pardon the pun, man. I don't mean to have a dig at the owners and nothing like that, man. Don't go there. But you know what I'm saying, man. They would love to swap with us, man. Love to. They manager. But I hear you, man. I hear you. How are you feeling about the game tomorrow and the champion and the FA Cup final first and foremost?
I think the game tomorrow. I think we'll get the job done tomorrow. It won't be easy. That's Villa Park nighttime kickoff. But I think I'm looking at 2-0 tomorrow. I think we'll get the job done. I'm more worried about the FA Cup against Chelsea because I think the way he'll set them up, it's gonna, it causes trouble. So I'm looking to that game. I'm seeing, are they gonna maybe rest anyone tomorrow? Salah looks a bit leggy. Fabinho, Robbo.
What would you do?
I would personally. I was telling my friend earlier. I would rest Robbo. I would rest Salah, and I would also rest Fabinho. I think we'll still have enough to get the job done. But I think just keep them fresh for the game at Wembley.
Pick me your lineup for tomorrow then. If you're
tomorrow, okay. So Alisson, Van Dijk, Matip, Tsimikas, and then Arnold. The midfield 3, I would go for Thiago, Keita, Milner. And then
you play Milner. You're bringing in Milner for this one. Huh?
I think look, against Newcastle, he would man the match for me.
Okay.
I think he's really good. So I'll bring him Milner.
Thiago, Milner,
and Keita.
Okay.
And then front 3, I would play. If Firmino's back, I would play Firmino, Jota, Diaz.
You'd rest Mane and Salah. Interesting.
Or rest Mane and Salah, yeah. Because I think that those 2 cup finals we have to win, man. I think the league now, I can't see it. I honestly can't. I just can't see it.
So pick your team for the final then. FA Cup final.
Okay, so Salah, Mane come in,
Mm-hmm.
Diaz, and then the midfield three: Fabinho, Thiago, Henderson. Back
Hendo
four, I
ahead
would
of
go with
Naby.
Matip, Van Dijk.
You'd go for Matip
Yeah,
over
Naby. For me, I'm
Konate.
not a big fan of Naby.
You're not a big fan of Naby?
Yeah,
okay.
Matip and Van Dijk. No, I'm not. I think the FA Cup final, especially, I think you need someone who's, Hendo's kind of, you need that leader there. Yeah, so the back pairing, Van Dijk and Matip, Arnold, Robbo, and then obviously
and
Alisson.
fullbacks pick each other. So two interesting points.
Yeah.
Okay, you've explained your Naby one. You're not a huge fan of him. Don't you think he's done well this season? He's improved his performances now.
No, he has improved. It's just for me in the big cup finals, I would rather have the Hendo there. I think he's just a leader. I would go for the leader.
That's
there,
fair
Hendo.
enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And the Konate Matip. And the Konate Matip.
With that one as well, I think for example, the Champions League final now, 100% for me, I'm going with Matip all day long because he's been there and he's done it. He's won us the Champions League, so I'm going for the tried and tested.
That's fair enough as well, man. Interesting.
I'm a massive fan of Konate, but I think he's still young. He's going to have cup finals in the years coming. But for me, right now, it's Matip and Van Dijk number one pairing.
No, I tend to agree with you. I tend to agree with you in a lot of things you've said for the cup final, and even for tomorrow. I'm not sure. I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I think I'm not sure with Jurgen Klopp's going to go for the same lineup. It's going to be pretty much a bit of a rotation. Guys in the studio, I've had to remove you guys because I'm actually having to close up the show now. I've just got a reminder that I've got another show in about half an hour and I haven't had any dinner. So I'm going to get something to eat before I jump on the big six. Shaz, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, man. Wanstead. Yeah, man, Wanstead. So which college will you go? Which college would you go to?
I was at Wanstead High School.
Oh, yes. We used to play them in cricket, man. We used to have some mad games of cricket against them, man. I used to go to Norlington High School. You know where Norlington is? In Leighton?
I've heard of that. I've heard of it, yeah.
Leighton Sixth Form College I used to go to.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's all around the corner from me, local.
Absolutely, man. I grew up, man. So good to hear from a local, man. Listen, nice one. Thanks for coming on today. All the best.
Man.
Look after yourself. Take care. Okay, guys. I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't get more callers on today. Bit of a rush show because I had to put the preview in today. But listen, hoping to do one on Saturday after the cup final. I might do a late call night show when I get back from Wembley. And then definitely the Red Fellas podcast on the Sunday night. Obviously tomorrow, guys, post-match, the guys will be on. If I'm not on, I think I will be on, actually. We'll do the post-match. This has been the preview show to the Villa game and the Call in Khan show. Thank you for supporting me. Don't forget to smash a like on your way out, guys. Very important. There's still over 100 of you. You know what I mean? Even if all of you smash a little like for me, I'll be humbled and thrilled with your support. Until next time, take care.